Everyone has the same 5 core areas of their life that ultimately determine how happy they'll be. Unfortunately, most of us have developed failure habits in each, and it's Will Moore's mission to help replace those with success habits to maximize momentum. After exiting his business for a combined 9-figure sum, Will learned it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur of your career, but an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run, your life. And to crush it in your life requires firing on all cylinders in your 5 cores by continually taking action, building habits, and maintaining balance in each. Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life Podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. If you've not already, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the 5 Core Life Podcast wherever you get your podcasts so you get notified when episodes air every week. On today's episode of the 5 Core Life, Will Moore sits down with Zach Skow, dog rescuer, life changer, and founder of Marley's Mutts. Zach was born and raised in Hermosa Beach, California. As a kid, he aspired to become a fighter pilot, but later found his passion in providing second chances for pets and people. Zach began working in local animal welfare back in 2004, developing the first large dog foster program, which he headed, as well as the education and therapy dog program there called Miracle Mutts. In 2008, Zach was diagnosed with stage 4 acute alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver and given less than 90 days to live. He was admitted to the Comprehensive Transplant Center at Cedars-Sinai, where he is still a patient today. It is out of this desperate situation that Marley Mutts Dog Rescue was born. Zach found a way to save his own life by saving the lives of others, a philosophy of service which Marley's Mutts has adhered to since its founding. Marley's Mutts was honored in Sacramento as the best nonprofit of the year for their district in California back in 2019. Marley's Mutts has rescued over 6,000 dogs, cats, horses, and pigs in the last 11 years and has created numerous progressive programs, including Barks and Books, Miracle Mutts, and Positive Change, an inmate canine rehabilitation program, which is spreading throughout the California penal system and hopefully the world. Zach married the woman of his dreams, Heather Skow, and they have a 19-month-old daughter together, as well as 5 dogs, 1 cat, a pig, and 3 horses. So in today's episode, Zach and Will discuss how Zach went from rock bottom suicide with 90 days to live to a second lease on life full of love, growth, and opportunity. He gets into his top habit that's helped transform him and how he's used relationships, both human and animal, to become the happiest he's ever been. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
Better. What's up, man?
What up?
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How's my
You're cool. You're a cool
video?
dude. I was reading up on you and watching your videos, kind of your story. So are you, by the way, heartthrob here, are you like the jockey underwear guy?
I am a jockey underwear guy of sorts. It was very random how that all worked out. It's a pretty funny story, though. I'll give you 2 minutes of it, and it'll be enough to make your audience laugh. So I get an Instagram message from Jockey basically saying, we're interested in you for a campaign called Show 'em. Can you send us some pictures of you in your underwear? And I didn't have any, my wife was gone, and I didn't have anyone to take pictures of me, and I couldn't figure out how to, so my buddy, Robbie, who hadn't been out of prison for very long, I gotta walk up to him and be like, hey, bud, do you mind taking some tasteful nudes of me, partial nudes of me for this random jockey message that I just got?
It's cool. It's cool. Trust me, it's for this thing. It's nothing weird.
Yeah. And it was one of the coolest things that ever happened to me, being kind of accepted into the jockey family. We had it was the first time a pit bull was used in a national, fashion campaign. It was very scary to be in my underwear. I'm not a person who generally feels, I don't see a lot of what other people see in me, I guess is the case. A lot of people would think, oh man, shake what you got, show off what you got. But it's intimidating, man. It really is. And the whole experience when you got 50 people in a studio and their only job is to be there to photograph you and your rescue dogs in your underwear. But it was beautiful, man. It was a great experience.
Well, from one heterosexual guy to another, comfortable with my sexuality, you look great, bro. I saw
Thanks,
you
pal.
in the thing. You're doing a good job. You're representing Jockey well. good to get you. They were
Thanks, man. Yeah, you know, a big part of that too was not long ago. I was a very, very sick person. I mean, it was 12 years ago, so it's been a long time now. But that was one of the things that was so special about it is, you know, I was in liver failure and 140 pounds and completely yellow with a old 90-year-old flat, wrinkly yellow bum and a catheter in my back and a 9 months pregnant, swollen, herniated belly. And, you know, I was the last kind of person that would ever be featured in an underwear campaign. So to come that full circle, and also they didn't hide anything, man. They let me be 1,000% honest about me and my struggles and my life and my sobriety and what it's all been like. They embraced me completely. And sometimes when organizations or groups would, you know, want to work with you, they'll say, hey, we really love what you're doing with the rescue dogs, but can you not talk about prison? Or we love what you're doing with, you know, your recovery with alcohol, but can you not talk about drugs? And Jockey was really special. They just accepted me into the whole deal, man.
That's that. Well, good for, all right, Jockey. All right, next pair of underwear I'm buying is Jockey.
Kenosha, Wisconsin, baby. Yeah.
You know, right. I mean, those are the types of companies you want to buy from, right? They're they're not trying to pull the wool over people's eyes or be, you know, act like life isn't the way it is. I mean, it's real, it's raw. That's what people want to hear about anyways. So they get that. It's great that you're able to be you and all of its beautifulness and ugliness and get that story across. So speaking of,
and I'm obviously heavily tattooed as well, and they accepted that part of me as well, which was special, you know.
Dude,
and of course,
cool. Tattoos are in. If I had the courage to get a tattoo, I'd be. Oh, look at this little. Who's this?
This is Cora Rose. This is my other two-legged dog. She is my personal creature, and she is simply the happiest, and she emits light similar to a solar entity. She has obnoxious, just masses of sunlight and starlight and positivity just emanating from her at all time. I'm pretty sure she has like a nuclear core like Iron Man. And she's just special, man. She's the greatest thing in the world. She is one of our double front leg amputees. They're in the Jockey campaign. There was another double front leg amputee named Noel, who we profiled. And one of the things that we do within our organization is really try to help dogs that are hopeless, that are beyond help, that have reached a point similar to what I reached in my recovery, where, you know, when I got diagnosed, it was you have less than 90 days to live. You need a liver transplant. You're not going to get one. You know, I was as sick could be, and I was as hopeless could be. And so after my dogs, you know, helped save my life and, you know, prevented me from putting a gun in my mouth and pulling the trigger, prevented me from giving in to my lack of sobriety. I mean, I've been an alcoholic and a drug addict, you know, 24 hours a day for a long time. And they helped save my life. So I really wanted to give back to saving them, and dogs that were kind of personified what my struggle was. And my struggle was zero access to hope, zero self-esteem, and no idea really where to start. And that's why we rescue these little ones, is because they show us the way. In rescuing a dog that has no hope, that's got at the time she had a broken back, broken pelvis, broken legs, possibly a broken neck. And at that point you just go, you know, we got nothing here. What are we going to do? Right. And to me, I think, no, we can do this. We can. We built such an incredible community of dog rescue proponents that let's work on something. Let's save this animal's life and let's see what she's capable of. She's made it this far. When we rescued her, she just had these casts on and she was in terrible shape. And we said, let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. And everyone's saying, you're doing this for Facebook likes. You're a terrible person. I can't believe you would amputate a dog's front legs and mutilate it and basically create this freak, and you're doing it simply for yourself. And people don't understand that, you know, this dog is, and all of us are capable of such blinding resilience. It's only a matter of perspective, and there's nothing limiting her. She doesn't wake up in the morning and go, I have no front legs. Poor me. This is going to be a terrible day. She wakes up every day going, are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Yes.
Holy shit. This is the greatest day in the history of days. Where's my dad? Dad, it's the greatest day in the history of days. And that's what she does, man. She just bellows positivity. And if we wouldn't have rescued her and put her through the paces, we would have missed all that. So up to this point, we've now had 5 double front leg amputees. We've kind of rethought how the veterinary community views double leg amputations, because prior it was something that we didn't embrace because it was cruel and unusual. But seeing how well she operates, I just posted a video of her to my social media. You guys can all see her walk and run and jump up the stairs. She's just incredibly special, and she kind of embodies and personifies everything that we try to do at Marley's Mutts.
Dude, that's so, I love hearing catalyst stories from like people. So I had a rock bottom. A lot of people interview. It's amazing how many have had sort of that really just low moment, and then there's this catalyst. A lot of times it happens. Not always. Sometimes it's just they just realize, all right, it's time to get my act together. But a lot of times there's a catalyst, and I love hearing and finding out that story and what it is. Yours is a really interesting one, right? Dogs. There's this connection that we have with these creatures, and they really do. It's like you look into their eyes, and they look right at you, and they see your soul. And they love you, like you said, for who you are, no matter whether you're lying on a street, with no money in your pocket, as long as you can feed them, though, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or it can be built, but it's just raw and it's real. And there's something very therapeutic and magical about all animals, dogs in particular. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine was like a horse whisperer, and she actually did therapy with horses and kids.
Yeah. We do that too. We did that this whole last weekend with my wife's nonprofit. That's exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love it. Very, very cool. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like to see how, and these dogs, they literally saved your life, right?
100%. Yeah. I had a very real transformative moment, like you say, like they talk about, these where the heavens open up and lightning strikes and you have this kind of epiphany. It was very, very, very ugly. My epiphany was I'm happy to get into it if I get emotional. I'm sorry, but for me, I think we can allow doubt to creep in so heavily, and when you have a crisis of self-esteem and you don't know how to get it back, it is so hard to face life. It is so hard to get up every day when you, and it's not that I hadn't done esteemable acts. I had just hit rock bottom. I was in liver failure. I'd been in the hospital for 6 months. I wanted to kill myself. I'd been addicted to Dilaudid and morphine in the hospital. So I had 2 addictions to fight: acute alcoholism, liver failure, kidney failure, and this opiate addiction. And I didn't know the first thing. I didn't know what to do. And the path of least resistance for me was suicide. So I'd spent, just days daydreaming about taking my dad's gun. I'd even sat with it on my lap, thinking about, this is my only option, and daydreaming about going into going for a hike and just taking my own life with my dogs. And then one morning, I'd been out of the hospital I'd been admitted to the transplant program at Cedars-Sinai. I'd been out of the hospital for a little while, for like a couple of weeks. And I was taking a million different medicines to try and save my life, to try to keep me out of liver failure. And it was in the middle of the night. I had soiled my bed. I had gone number 2 for your listeners. I won't describe it in any more detail. And it's really embarrassing, but it happened several times a night at that point. I was taking Enulose, which keeps ammonia buildup out of your brain. When you're in liver failure, you don't cognitively, you vacillate between coherent and totally incoherent. And this medicine helps keep ammonia off your brain so you can communicate, but it has a lot of bad side effects. So I had soiled myself, and I didn't want to wake my dad up, who had been my caretaker for like a year up to that point. So I walk past the full-length mirror, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm completely yellow and purple. Every part of me that's had a needle stuck into it or that I've bumped is totally purple. All my skin's yellow. I got varicose veins in my throat, which is called esophageal varices, which is deadly. It's a mortal condition. So I was falling apart. I had huge 9 months pregnant belly with these varicose veins feeding it. I'm looking at myself. I'm taking this all in, and I'm at the furthest rock bottom you can possibly get at. I was kind of grappling with the idea, how was I still alive anyway? And in that moment, I just started to sob, and I felt so sorry for myself, so mortally sorry for myself. It was like, there's nowhere to go from here. You know, you just got to end it. I couldn't help myself. I didn't know how to put one foot in front of the other. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to coexist with myself. I didn't know how to not hate myself, like, constantly. You know, and I turn around. I'm in the middle of this just end it moment where and I turn around and my dogs are looking at me. Next to the toilet, there's, like, this sounds terrible, but there's vomit next to the toilet from earlier in the night. And my dogs are just sitting there looking up at me like, everything is perfect. I am the world's greatest human being, absolutely hand delivered from God to them. And they're looking at me like, not only do they see me, but they understand me and they love me and they recognize that I'm still in there. And up to that point, I had not been sober a day in my life. I was scared of everything. I absolutely hated myself. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror, just wanting to, I didn't recognize myself. I didn't know who I was. That's a really scary thing, to look at your own eyes and go, who is that person?
Wow.
So in that, I was like backed away and went, all right, that was it. That was confirmation that I need to end this. Like, this is just not good enough. And then sure as shit, as I'm overwhelmed with that feeling to take my life, I look down at my dogs and they're looking up at me like nothing is wrong. I'm absolutely lovely. I'm made of stardust and you know, God atoms. And I had this peace, this acceptance came over me, this love, this kind of idea that things were going to be okay. And in that moment, I really just gave my life to them. I said, all right, guys, you know, I'm going to just spend my time with you. Let's see what we can do. I kind of just committed to taking the first step, which for me was that morning trying to go for a walk. I started to journal, I started to meditate, and I started to walk. And just getting out there and doing walking meditations in the morning in the mountains fundamentally changed my life. And I started to get physically better. I started to get spiritually better. I started to connect with a God of my understanding, which is not Christianity, which is not Buddhism, which is not Hinduism, it's not Zoroastrianism. It could be a combination of all of them. I don't know, but it's a God of my understanding and dogs that understand me. And that combination really helped save my life. And it set me on this trajectory to create Marley's Mutts. And from that moment on, man, I just started bringing dogs into my home from the shelter, and we spent every waking hour rescuing dogs. And it really didn't stop for a decade. And the more dogs I rescued, the better I got, the healthier I got. And to the point where once I finally qualified for a liver transplant, I didn't need a liver transplant. So I'm still functioning with my same black liver. I have what's called stage 3 fibrosis. So I'm still sick. You know, my kidneys aren't great. My gallbladder's not great. My liver is not great, but I'm alive. I'm well. I have a beautiful wife. I just had my second daughter. I have an incredible pack of dogs. And I owe that all to, that entire epiphany and that whole experience was God and dogs acting in my life, doing something for me which I couldn't do for myself. That whole experience was outside of me. It wasn't me that did any of it. And that's kind of a key to a big key to my success story is, sure, I did a lot of the work, but a lot of it was feeding it, was allowing myself to follow my intuition and allowing people in and allowing people to believe in me and letting people in even when it was very uncomfortable because I felt so low about myself. And it's made all the difference in the world, man. I can't believe where I am. I can't believe that I get to coexist with the woman of my dreams and the kids of my dreams and the dogs of my dreams. And it's all very special.
That's awesome, man. So, yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that story.
Sure.
You know, it's always like I said, I love hearing kind of that journey. And everybody's got their own special one. And I talk about how, you know, you're lucky. If a lot of us are lucky if we hit rock bottom. And the reason I say that is because a lot of us just hover in between our best life and that rock bottom, right? That kind of like medium gray area where you're just kind of getting by and you're not really experiencing all these great things that life has to offer. You're playing it safe. You're letting fear guide you. You've got more of a victim mindset. And a lot of times it does take a catalyst. I was fortunate. I was suicidal in college as well, and I had mine. And you had yours. By the way, when did yours happen? How long ago was this?
So I've been sober 12 years, October 12th. So I just had my 12th birthday. I was diagnosed in March of 2008. with end-stage liver disease. So I was given less than 90 days to live in March of 2008.
Wow.
And, you know, through the grace of dog, as I like to say, you know, I've been handed a wonderful second chance. You know?
Well, and I like how you did it your way. Like you even said, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know if you created your own religion, but we don't need to get into that. But when I look at religion, you know, you basically, you kind of figured out this is what it means to me, and it makes sense for me and my life and my dogs. And, you know, like that's what's up. Like if it works, great. Like you don't have to be a certain religion. Like you don't have, like, you know, we all grow up, and a lot of times we become the religion that our parents are, and that's fine if it works for you and it's helping you. But to me, you got to be careful not to look at other people in the world and go, well, they're that religion, so they don't get it like I get it. And they're, you know, certain religions even say, well, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe. And versus sort of like, this is what works for me, this is my thing, and I'm not going to tell you not to do your thing, but this is kind of how I'm doing it. I love that.
It's beautiful, man. It's the best thing about being in recovery. You know, I grew up an agnostic and an atheist, but one of the things about living a purpose-driven life and a life of spirituality is you can't do that and feel alone. You know, you can't do that and feel alone. So, this God of my understanding consists of you, especially this morning. You're a part of it. All of your followers are part of it. These beautiful mountains are part of it. Whatever my struggle today is part of it. The love I'm going to experience with my family is part of it. You know, there are so many things that, you know, I would have stayed at my bottom if I weren't able to connect with a power greater than myself. And that doesn't mean a dogmatic, all-powerful God that, you know, controls everything by processing people's prayers. It just means not me. You know, it just means that there are many powers in this universe that are greater than myself, and I'd like to connect with them. So you're one of them. Cora sitting on my lap is another one of them. This conversation we're having, the connections we're having with all these people that are listening to us is another one of them. And that's what I seek. You know, I've spent a lot of time being lonely. I spent a lot of time in that victim mindset, in that poor me mindset, and seeing what it's done to me. And it just, I mean, whenever I've been in that mindset, I feel like I'm a tree stump standing there with someone just taking hacks at me with an axe. You know, there's nothing more detrimental to your everyday wellness than the victim mentality. And it's unfortunate because, especially in recovery, I mean, people threw sympathy at me in recovery. When you're sick and you look like you're going to die, people just throw sympathy at you. And it can be absolutely detrimental. I mean, it is a variable that will sink you, and it will keep you headed towards, it'll keep you going past the bottom you didn't realize was there. So yeah, when I talk about God, I'm not trying to proselytize to anybody. You know, I just was able to discover something that involves connection, that involves connecting with other people, that involves connecting with the great blue sky and the trees and the earth and everything, all of it, the good and the bad. And that I choose to call God. So when I get into a tough spot, I can have that conversation. I include my ancestors. I include dogs that have passed. It's a fun exercise. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous to some people listening, but when you're in charge of your destiny, you're in charge of your spirituality. You don't have to take anything spoon-fed from anybody. You know, your spirituality is yours to morph and create, and it's constantly in flux. It's always in flux. And that's beautiful, to get to wake up every day and not have to like go reference some manual about, you know, thou shalt not, etc. And it makes connection that much easier and that much more fulfilling, you know.
100% agree with that. Right. You know, we all, you know, that ties to me in the emotional health. I've got these 5 core areas. Everybody, you know, I believe we all share, and you got to have building momentum and finding balance in each. And that emotional health one ties into the spirituality, religion, whatever it is, something that you use. And even if you're an agnostic, but like you have to have some sort of a system that kind of helps propel you forward. And if religion, spirituality can help with that, absolutely. Just don't go trying to tell everybody else that they have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my only caveat with that.
It is a big time caveat, man. When people get into, you know, judging others based on their own, you know, ideals, we get into a lot of trouble, man. And I think, yeah, I mean, we would have to spend a lot of time talking about organized religion here. But,
yeah, I know, right? That could be a whole nother.
I think kind of the thing that I would like to pause on is I was agnostic and atheist for so long. For so long. I'm not saying even that I don't still have atheistic sentiments, but through the process of recovery, I allowed myself to embrace the idea of a power greater than me, the idea of the great blue sky, whatever you want to call it. And it's fundamentally changed my life. And I'm not putting an identity to it. I'm not saying this God handed down these dogmas that you must follow or whatever, but it just means connecting to the greatness of all of everything that's around us and trying to plug into it and take part. And that's kind of what I consider. I consider my spirituality just putting forth an effort every morning to plug in. I'm just trying to plug into the matrix, to the greater spiritual mechanism, even though it's enigmatic and I don't understand it, and I'm sure you don't either, but it's fun. And I'm an insomniac, for instance, you know, but without fail, when I repeat certain mantras, I'll fall asleep. You know, and there's just certain types of connections, call them folly or not. I could be placating myself. I don't know, but they work. And just not feeling that aching loneliness of when we're trapped in the hamster wheel of our own minds, being able to separate myself from that and reach outwards, it's so much more fulfilling. You know, it's so much more fulfilling. I went on a hike yesterday with my dogs, with my whole pack, and with no, you know, I listened to a podcast for maybe 20 minutes, but the other hour and a half was silent. And what happens in that process, if you allow yourself to be receptive, is a true communion with God. You know, and I used to hate saying the word God. I would have never said the word God, but I feel comfortable with it now because it doesn't have an identity. I'm not referring to any particular God, but just that process of hiking with my animals in silence spiritually connected me to so much more. And I felt more motivated and pumped to attack the day than ever, you know, because of that spiritual recharge.
So yeah, I mean I love that, man, and that's like right. My view on religion sounds very spirituality very parallel to yours. We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah.
I want to get into, you know, habits is kind of a big part of what I like to talk about, and just kind of giving people that are out there that maybe they haven't hit their rock bottom yet, maybe they're at their rock bottom, or they're kind of like, my life definitely needs a change here. How are we going to get this going? And obviously, you got the dogs, but that was your catalyst. What are the habits that you feel like you changed, other than the obvious? You stopped drinking, you know, you stopped doing drugs. Mm-hmm. But some of I guess we can go to mindset. Start with there. What are some of the mindset habits that you've seen shift, and what was your habit previously, and what has it turned into that's allowed you to kind of live this life?
Prior to Marley's Mutts, prior to my sobriety, I drank 24 hours a day. So I drank all night, throughout the evening, anytime I woke up, and throughout the day. I was a 24-hour a day user and drinker. So my previous
life. To interrupt you. Where did that start? Like, where did the drinking start?
When I was a teenager, I started drinking every day at 17. Started using drugs at probably 15, 14. Had my first drink at probably 10. It's just, I was what I was around, is what I was surrounded by. I grew up in Hermosa Beach, California. It's a very punk rock, heavy drinking, heavy using kind of a atmosphere. And then also just familially, it's what my family spent a lot of time doing. Mm-hmm. is you know, and I've been through a lot of trauma in my life. I've been through, you know, childhood sexual abuse and things that I, you know, have been able to process in adulthood that, you know, had a gigantic impact on my entire life. I mean, thank God for therapy, and thank God for working out things, and thank God for a society that allows us to open up and talk about what we're experiencing. Because if I'd have held on to that experience that happened to me as a child, that inappropriate sexual contact as a child, you know, for a couple of years, I don't know what would have happened to me if I never processed that. It was something that was completely detrimental to me. I mean, it affected every aspect of my life, and I didn't even know it. You know, the shame, all of it. You know, it's very, very interesting how it affects you, and you have no idea. And it's similarly, or conversely, when I was able to exercise that experience of childhood sexual trauma, the heavens open up, the possibilities open up. You realize, oh my gosh, all of these things I was stuck in, they're not permanent. I don't have to hold on to this anymore. I had unnatural anxieties around women, period. Like that were so overwhelming. And when you're going through that in puberty and as a young man, it's very confusing. Very, very, very confusing. And when I was able to process it with a therapist and let all that go and acknowledge what had happened to me over those years, and I mean, it set me free. It really allowed me to develop intimacy with my wife that I wouldn't have been able to do. It allowed me to develop a relationship with my kids that I wouldn't have been able to do. And it's just allowed me to step into my own power much, much, much more because I've been able to process that. So I really encourage people, if you've been through, even if you don't recognize it or understand it, because I remember the memories very well, but I didn't know what it meant. It's hard for a kid to understand childhood sexual trauma. It really is. But I just encourage people to get out there and raise your hand, open your mouth, talk about it, because the plus side of it is this freedom and this liberty. And I'm not just talking about like sexual liberty or intimacy liberty. There's this, I was reborn when I was able to move past my childhood sexual trauma and of course alcoholism and addiction, and now I feel like I'm really stepping into the person I was meant to be for the first time in my life, at 41.
Right, and it's always a journey, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Like you had that catalyst, but it's not like you woke up the next morning and it was like your life was fixed, right? The catalyst is sort of helping you say, okay, you're going this way, you're going the wrong way, you're building negative momentum. Let's build that positive, and let's head this way instead. And then it still takes, like you said, the work. I think you mentioned earlier, takes the work and the actions, and then the habits form, and it's like, okay, now we're doing the things, and then all of a sudden it starts to trickle out and ripple into it starts with your mindset, right? We talked about that briefly earlier. Your mindset is that victim, owner versus victim. I call it growth owner versus fixed victim. You got to get that. You got to start heading in the right direction, and that too will develop. It's not like you can snap your fingers, but when you get that heading in the right direction, then your relationships, your physical health, your emotional health, giving back side is allowed to open up in your career, your finances, like all these things just start to kind of come together. And you're able to build momentum in each, and then they all kind of play off of each other.
Exactly.
Like now you're really starting to fire on all cylinders.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I am. Quarantine did that for me. I have a better setup routine. Like I totally got away from your question because we segued into childhood sexual trauma. So I got off on one. But the best thing that could have ever happened to me is prayer and meditation. Let me back up. No matter what physical movement, I have to physically move every day. I am hyperactive. I am stimulated naturally. So number one healthy pattern for me is activity. I have to move. I have to hike. I have to exercise. I have to box. I have to do whatever. The other is prayer and meditation. I felt ridiculous praying and meditating. It was something that I thought, especially not as a religious person, and my sponsor's telling me, when you go to bed at night, put your hands together and kneel at your bed and say your prayers. And then when you get up in the morning, when you put on your slippers, do the same, get on your knees. I'm going, are you fucking serious? Yeah. You expect me to kneel like a Norman Rockwell painting at the foot of my bed and like pray come on, man. But so I just felt ridiculous, especially as an atheist. You got to remember, like I started an atheist club in high school called the Real Life Club, which was meant to combat the religious club. We debated them, so I don't come with the tools for this spiritual stuff. But once I allowed myself to do it and I allowed myself to feel ridiculous, prayer, just because all prayer is trying to establish a connection with a power greater than yourself. It is an opportunity for accountability. It is an opportunity for apology. It is an opportunity for repeating healthy mantras. It's an opportunity for all kinds of things. And then with meditation, I'm a reactive person. I'm a highly emotional, highly sensitive person. And meditation is another thing that I thought I was terrible at, that I pushed aside because I couldn't do it. You don't understand. I have ADHD. I can't meditate. Might be easy for you guys, but you don't understand. I'm different. I'm tragically unique. You don't get it. But finally giving into that and allowing myself to pray and meditate on a daily basis, it's like my favorite thing now. I love to sit and meditate, even if it doesn't go like I give myself the grace for it to go wherever it goes. And it's offered me so much. I can find that peace. I can find that little emotional island anytime I want and when I meditate. So those are the key ingredients so far. Is let me add another one. Another is working with others. Service is paramount. If you are only in your own transom, in this existence, and this is where all your shit happens, and all of your thoughts and all of your worries and anxieties and bullshit, you're gonna fail. You have to allow yourself, me anyway, you have to get outside of your own problems and your own issues and get into aiding other people. And for me, I've always been of service my whole life. My mom raised me that way. Whether it's I have liver transplant sponsees. I have a lot of different people I've worked with over the years. But that service work, and again, that connection of working with other people, there's nothing like it. Because I am a naturally low self-esteem individual. Again, I don't see what other people see. It's very hard for me I don't have the same lens. I don't view myself through the same lens. But when I work with other people, when I work with my guys in prison, I have several sponsees in prison, and I have, my sponsor always says, do something that blows your hair back. Nothing blows my hair back than being able to offer hope to people who don't have access to hope, whether that's people or pets. And I get to do that. I get to I get to work with people who are at a very low point and apply some of my experience, strength, and hope, and help them get out of their own hamster wheel and into something more helpful. And that's what life is all about. So I've really found that is what unifies us all. That's where love is housed, is in those moments, those exchanges, those connections. And so definitely finding a way to work with other people is something that is going to always pay dividends. It's going to always help you feel better about yourself, which at the end of the day is what's going to help you succeed. The better you feel about you, the more esteem you have, the better chance you have to be the person you're always meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, that giving back component you're talking about right now, I just want to pause on it for a second. Anybody that's started to make progress, like when you're that victim in that victim mindset, right? When you're, well, life sucks, my brain's broken, there's nothing I can do about it. Like the last thing in the world on your mind is, how can I go help other people? How can I help the world? Ironically, however it starts, you had your catalyst, I had mine, everybody. And if you're able to make that shift, to get out of your own brain and take that growth owner and just say, you know what, I'm responsible for my own life and I can do whatever I want. And I know that part of my journey, if I want to be my happiest and best self, is, like you just said, relationships, connections, helping others. And then it's going to come back around alliances, relationships, deep, fulfilled things and if you're able to just start that and get that going in the right direction. And then like when you do help somebody else, like the feeling, I mean, your eyes just lit up when you talked about that.
Uh-huh.
I have the same thing. Anybody that's ever done it,
uh-huh.
And I saw on your website and watched the video, you help prisoners, and there's the one prisoner holding the dog, smiling, and the change he made in his life. And I'm sure many more. And it's like, there's literally no better feeling on the planet than that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's like, how many people actually do that? Which is so crazy, right? We do all these things that we think is going to bring us happiness. This low hanging fruit, devices. But when you do that, when you addiction, all you got to do is go out, help somebody else, even if it's a small thing, even holding the door for somebody, something as small as that. Like there's that little bit of,
We have a million opportunities to leave a positive streak throughout the day. A million. Each one of those positive streaks, matriculates out into the universe and can create exponentially more positive effects. And that's what folks, and it can be uncomfortable to be positive all the time. But if you do it, if you go out of your way to leave a positive streak, the benefits that will come back to you and just the positive juju that will reciprocate it's just there. At least that's my experience,
Right. And right. I mean, the opportunities are there, and it's sort of like you're either gonna take the opportunities or not. And it's just the reward you get is just so immense. And
one thing sorry to interrupt, but I knew we'd move past this. One thing that's been interesting that I just centered in on is when you work in service, when you are of service to people for a living, because it's basically my job is to serve people and pets. It feels so good to help people that when I ruminate in my own brain, I go, oh boy, this shit is uncomfortable. I don't necessarily want to be in here. Let me go help somebody. And so, yeah, it's positive in that I'm going to help somebody, but it gets to a point where this has happened to me many times where I'm neglecting my own mental wellness because I don't want to have to get into the process. I'd rather just go help someone because it's easier. It gives me the reward more quickly than if I had to sit in my own things and process what's happening here. So for a lot of us service folk, we can get into this detrimental pattern where we're serving others over ourselves, to the point where things can get bad.
Yeah, and this comment, right, this is Jordy Martin. I find it hard to find real opportunities to be of service, but realizing it doesn't need to be that big is huge. I mean, that's the thing. And like anything, you got to start small. Like, don't go out and try to save the world tomorrow, right? I mean, what we're doing right now, we're being of service. Like, we're talking, we're helping people with, to look at, okay, what's my life? Where do I want to be? How do I make changes? How did this guy do it? What are these guys talking about? But I mean, those small things of just figuring out a way, like you said, a million opportunities. I like that. It's like there's always little ways to help.
Take 15 minutes and go leave 100 positive posts on random Instagram followers' pages. You will feel like $1 million. Go surprise random people and say some wonderful things about how they look, what they're doing, whatever. There are literally a million opportunities throughout the course of the day. If you just get on the inmate locator, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, they have an inmate locator service. You can type in any name. It'll give you an inmate who's incarcerated for 10, 15, 20 years. Most of them were locked up as children and have been incarcerated for decades. If you took the time to write them a letter and say, hey, man, I don't know you from Adam, but I'm thinking about you, and my name's so-and-so. You didn't have to give your last name, but that just that would make a world of difference in someone's life. You can go down to the community center. You can go down to the park. And like you said, just simple acts of kindness. When you go through the drive-through, thank people that are out there working. And my father was in the heart hospital recently with a heart issue, so he was hospitalized. My other father was in the hospital for 3.5 months during COVID. So, I've tried to make it a habit. Anytime I see someone out there who's a necessary service worker, you like hug them with words. We can't hug them physically, but just, and there's just more opportunity for positivity now than there ever has been, considering all the shit we're going through. And I think it's my favorite thing to do, to be honest.
It is like a virus. Somebody mentioned earlier, I think I saw a comment. It's like a virus, it spreads, it's infectious. And then it's like you get greedy for it and you want more of it. And then you start spreading it more and it comes back. And that, like the cherry on top, the coolest thing, not the coolest thing, but an awesome part of it is those alliances and the relationships that you're forming that you may have never had, that may have completely passed you by, and you never know what type of person who is going to come into your life and form, it could be your next business partner, it could be your next wife, it could be, but by doing these things, you're opening yourself up. And we are people-driven people. We have to be around people. We can't be isolated by ourselves in a dark room. It's not in our DNA. It goes back to our primal caveman days when, survival and hurt, the more people you had around you, the better chance of survival. And so that's a DNA thing that's in us. And if you would neglect that, and which is so easy to do, especially these days, not only in COVID, but with, technology and just being able to go into your little hole and play video games or watch TV or play on your other 80 devices that you have. It's a fact, like we're becoming less happy because of it. And it's because technology, it's not inherently bad, but how you use it can be, a negative. I mean, have you seen the show, The Social Dilemma on Netflix? Did you watch that? The documentary? I mean, that was, awesome, right?
I watched it twice.
it really, to me, nailed the whole, like, these guys like Zuckerberg, Larry Page, they're not bad guys inherently, but the genie's been let out of the bottle, and they have an obligation to their shareholders to make as much money as possible at any cost. And if that means, people's well-being and happiness is depleting by using their product because they're learning about them and they're showing them more of the types of things that they want to see, and they're actually polarizing them more and more from other people, right? You've got our country doing this right now, the world doing this. We're not doing this, right? And how do you get around that? Like you start to see life as, okay, these are my allies. How can we benefit one another? And then you go out of your way to help somebody, you watch what happens. They're gonna return that favor. And that's a long way of getting back. I'm ADD too, by the way, of where I started, which is the cherry on top is that you get that back tenfold. So not only does it feel amazing, but it's going to come back your way in one way or another.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. There's a question in there about meditating. How do you meditate? And ironically, I learned to meditate in prison, teaching a dog class. We have prison programs in 6 state prisons here in California and 1 girls' juvenile facility. So we are in prisons very often training. We have sometimes up to 100 dogs living in prison at any given time, 100 rescue dogs living in various prisons. And one of my buddies, Kios, taught me how to meditate in that setting. And he gave me all these simple rules for how to be easy on yourself, to allow, thought pops into your mind. Imagine it like a balloon that just floats off into the distance. Try not to put too much pressure on yourself. And the number one parameter for meditating is that you can't do it wrong. The number one parameter that people need to understand is you can't do it wrong. If you sit, close your eyes, and breathe, that's all you got to do. You can even do it with your eyes open. You can do it walking. I did a walking meditation yesterday. It's just about trying to quiet your mind and tracking your breath. It's as simple as that. So it's an enigmatic word that we attach all kinds of extra shit onto, but it's really a simple thing. And it's so powerful, man. It's such a restorative practice.
So yeah, right. I'd asked you earlier about kind of what are your top habits. Sounds like that's a good takeaway, and we got to wrap up here in a second. But right, so it's the meditation. Sounds like that's been a huge shifter for you in terms of just your life trajectory. By when you started doing that, you're seeing things differently. You're processing things differently, and it's really helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a little bit of love for myself in there as well. Just learning to sit with myself, man.
Absolutely.
Like we were just talking about with the phone, we don't like to sit with ourselves because we feel. And the minute we start to feel, we go, shit, where's my phone? Let me feel whatever's on the phone, whatever I'm looking at. Let me feel, pick a page, because we don't want to feel what we're feeling. And meditation allows me to cope better with what I'm feeling, with how I am, 100%.
Yeah, that's it, right? And the World Happiness Report, for no surprise, the last 3 or 4 years, it's been going down. We're becoming, this is the first year ever, I think or maybe it was last year, I don't know exactly, somebody probably could correct me, but that our life expectancy is going down, right? So yeah, starting to we've gotten to the point where we were going up technology, and now technology, like I was saying earlier, it's not inherently bad, but we gotta start using it for other purposes. We're using it right now for a good purpose. I'm developing an app that'll help people create these types of habits you're talking about in a fun, gamified way, so that when they level up on screen, they're actually leveling up on life. They're not just getting shallow little coins and gems that mean nothing. And so, yeah, so the lesson for today, just taking out of this, by the way, thank you so much for being on this, is, figure out
anytime, man, you want to do this again, I'm into it.
Dude, I would love to. We just scratched the surface. Unfortunately, I have to get off, but I could do this for another 3 hours. I love listening to you talk. We're completely on the same.
Totally, man. It's funny. As soon as I saw your face, I'm like, he looks a lot like me. I bet we're very similar.
It is funny how that works sometimes. Are you tall? How tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". Okay. Never mind. Then the height thing has nothing to do with it. I would say for some reason the tall guys I tend to. And that's tall. Whatever. You're not caveman days. Yeah. Anyways, but dude, like what you're doing, how you're inspiring people, going from rock bottom to here, like, to me, that's what it's about. And how good does it feel? Your eyes light up. I love watching you talk about these things, not being ashamed. I was so ashamed for so many years about like being suicidal, the thoughts that were going. When you're a victim, everything is shame, shame, shame. When you become an owner, it's like, yeah, I pooped myself.
Yep.
Yeah, I was the worst possible thing, and look because you're proud that you've been able to come out of that, and look where you are now.
And it gives us this opportunity to relate over like the bone marrow of life, like the deep nitty gritty aspects of life. We're not just talking about the weather and what's on, Dancing with the Stars tonight. Where we're really talking about shared, challenging, deep, problematic human experiences. And when you get to share about it, when you're just experiencing a deep, problematic human experience, it feels like it could drown you. But the minute you and I start talking about a shared, deep human experience, I become almost elated. You know, you can go from deeply depressed to almost excited because you found somebody who can relate to you, and all of a sudden the power is sucked out of that thing that you thought was going to take your life, you know?
That's exactly it. And again, right, it comes back to the whole, like, the relationships, connecting with other people, like-minded people, and you know, just having that, being able to express yourself and seeing, okay, this person gets me. And so again, man, thank you for sharing. I'm sure everybody out here, I've seen a lot of great comments coming in, can relate to parts of your story. Like I said, we haven't all hit our rock bottom, but remember, folks, you don't have to hit your rock bottom to start rebuilding your life and to start changing. Go buy a dog. Don't buy a dog. Go get religious. Don't get religious. Get spiritual. Whatever it is, the whole thing is figure out what it is that works for you. And so I like to tell people, start with those top habits that you think. Just make a list right now of your top 3. What are the top 3 things that I do on a consistent basis that are causing negative momentum, causing me to be less happy, right? And then pick your top 1, put them in order, 1 to 3. Get to work on your top 1 and just hold yourself accountable. That's what this app I was telling you about, Zach, does, is it's going to do it in a fun way. Because holding ourselves accountable is tough, right?
Yeah.
Like
we
actually,
didn't get into my bad habits, man. I got plenty of those.
We can do that on show 2. We'll get into the
Good.
entire. Well, while we're here, I mean, sure. What would you say is your top bad failure habit now? Is what I call them, failure versus success habits. What's your top failure habit? Because right, we're all still evolving.
Procrastination, for sure.
Procrastination. Okay. And how is that negatively impacting your life? And how
it's preventing me from having routine. It's big time preventing any sort of efficiency. When you have a family, you have a toddler and a newborn and a wife and a job, and you know, it prevents the efficiency that you need in order to be successful. And it creates this perpetual state of borderline panic and chaos, you know, because you're always saying, I'm going to put this off until. Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah, we are very alike. You know, procrastination. I've gotten much better at it, but I think that's another one. Don't beat yourself up about it. I think that's in our DNA as well. I think all humans, to a certain degree, it's like, you know, we want that low hanging fruit, right? And now that it's more available to us than ever, right? We can sit at home and we can get anything we want in the world delivered to us in 2 hours, right? And that makes it easier to take less action, to procrastinate more. But at the end of the day, it's all about movement, growth, and you're never going to get there if you don't take that action. And even if you fall on your butt, as I'm sure you'll be able to attest to, you fall on your butt, you fail, you got to fail forward. And when you do that, you say, okay, that sucked, and it's not going to feel good. And you're not going to always be happy and in a great mood. But when those bad things and those tragedies happen, then you go, okay, that sucked. Own it, and then, but what did I learn from that, and how can I grow and keep moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, for all your listeners too, man. I mean, 2 things. One, I've been at a point where I had absolutely no hope, and suicide was definitely the best option for me, and that seems like lunacy looking back on it now, you know? So if you're out there and you're struggling and you're suffering and you think like it can't get any worse than this, I might as well not be around. Trust me, it gets better. Trust me. And the first step usually involves just sharing with somebody how you feel. And yeah, just connect. Like we all take an opportunity to connect. We all feel so restricted by quarantine and everything, but I found an enormous ability to connect on social media during all of this. You know, I had kind of a tough experience with a person, a work colleague yesterday, and I was really feeling down. And I got on my DMs, and a buddy who's gotten sober with me during quarantine, I've never met him, it's only through Instagram. He celebrated 4 months, so he sent me a picture of his chip, and it was like, I was just elated. All that bullshit went out the window, and I got to focus on the connection he and I have had, and any of that negativity just disappeared, man. So I know it feels, I almost don't want to tell people to be on their phones so often because that's my number 1 problem. But man, take time to connect on social media. You know, it's all we got right now, and it can be pretty powerful.
Right, and besides just social media, like pick up the phone and call somebody. You know, even a Zoom call is better than a text or a like of their picture, right? And you can't keep in touch with everybody. Like you can't have 100 friends that you're constantly talking to every week. But you know, that handful of people that are special, that are important to you, you know, make that effort. Family, whatever, friends, whatever it is. If they live in I moved to Chicago several years ago, and I completely, all my friends back in Florida, it was tough at first. It was real tough. But now, more than ever, again, technology, it can be our friend, and we can use it to good. And the fact that we have these easy ways to just do this on our phones and on our computers, to do Zoom calls, and
But you're in Chicago right now?
I'm in Chicago, yeah.
We run the Chicago Marathon every year. I've got it tattooed several places. There's the stars. I got them on my legs.
Nice, dude.
8 years we've done it. It's our biggest fundraiser for our organization. Last time we had 30 people run it with us. So we got to stay in touch.
When is it? Yeah. When is
it's usually in October. It falls right around my sober birthday. So they didn't have it this year, but they'll have it next year. And we'll be no doubt back.
No, for sure. We're definitely going to keep in touch, because we're like this.
Definitely.
And when you're in Chicago, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Let's do it. We'll get together and we'll do it up. Maybe we'll get a tattoo together.
There you go, man. Let's do it. I'm down.
Thanks for being on the show. Where can people find you, learn more about you? You're helping people in so many different ways with the rescues and the dogs. So yeah, why don't you tell people about it?
I'm just writing "Find Me Here" on my Instagram is right there, and then at Marley's Mutts, MarleysMutts, at Positive Change Program, PAWSITIVE. Positive Change Program is our prison program. That's what you see here. This is our juvenile program. That is Kristen Bell. She came and visited for our graduation. That's Cora, who you guys just met. So that's our prison program. You can find me, Zach Skow, ZACHSKOW, all on Facebook and all the rest of them. I don't do much Twitter or YouTube. I probably should, but what are you gonna do?
Well, you can't do them all, right? You focus on your, this is your zone, this is your area. And yeah, you've got an awesome website. And God, my little Sophie, my sweet, sweet lady, passed away. This is my dog.
Yeah.
This past about 3 or 4 months ago. And it was my wife's dog. I had a kind of a similar interesting story about meeting my wife. That's when we do a show again, we should talk about how we met our wives. But bottom line, she had this dog when I met her. I fell in love with the dog first. I told the dog I loved her before I told my wife. It's been about 8 years since we've been together, and we lost her this year. And I mean, there's no tougher feeling than they are family members. And that's when you lose them, you realize they're not just animals, right? These are part of your life, and you can, and what you get from them and what they give you is immeasurable.
Yeah. We lost our dog in June in front of our house. She was hit by a car, and in front of my wife and daughter, and I tried to save her, and it was devastating. We buried her here, and it was a very, very, very tough experience. I learned a lot with it too. That's another thing that maybe we talk about on another segment is grief. I've always pushed away grief, but there's a lot of wonderful stuff involved in grief. There's a lot of opportunity for connection, and I think one of the cool things about her death is I have more of a concept of energy and kind of tapping into memory than I ever have. I've lost a lot of friends to addiction, a lot to overdose and gun violence and all kinds of stuff. But losing my dogs has been interesting, and it's really helped me develop a mourning strategy and also a kind of a connection to the afterlife, which I didn't see coming, which I'm very grateful for.
I love that. Yeah, spiritually, I'm where you were probably, but a little bit further back. So I still have lots of questions, and I question kind of my own view. But at the end of the day, for me, I don't necessarily do the praying and stuff, but the meditation, the breathing, the just kind of becoming centered with that is just huge. And so taking out one habit from this show that you do that's helpful. I mean, that's one that has changed my life as well. Mm-hmm. I need to do it more. That's one that I'm working on improving and doing longer. I find it hard to stay in that space for a long period of time, but just like any other habit, it's like, you start to do it and it slowly evolves and becomes bigger, easier, faster, stronger, kind of fake it till you make it. And then all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. You got to fake it till you make it. You're putting on a mask. We put on masks all day long until we don't have to anymore. That's just part of it. And one of the things too, I wanted to mention about prayer is that it's just like the word God or religion, prayer is kind of stigmatized as some sort of religious act involving Christ. And it's not that to me. But, you know, prayer for me is usually asking that I'm able to follow through on my moral principles throughout the day, that I am able to not be so self-serving, that I'm, you know, those are the things I'm praying for. And it's really just trying to establish a connection. You know, every once in a while I'll ask for something, but not as often. And if I ask for something, it's like grace, or ask for patience, or ask for success or even this, you know, talking with you, I prayed that I would, you know, didn't fuck this up.
Well, I think your wish, I say he, she, whatever it is, has answered and has giveth you that.
Definitely.
Dude, this was awesome, man. I'm also gonna put you on my list. I got your email and info. I want to keep in touch. I'm going to be doing some sort of a networking group in the near future of just really super like-minded folks, just trying to change the world and do great things, and being selfless and being servers. So thank you for being one of those, man.
Let's do it, man. This was a ball, man. I really appreciate you for letting me jump in there and kind of interrupt every once in a while and go on tangents. Thanks, man.
Dude, you're awesome. You're really easy to interview. You had a lot to say, and you get it across in a really simple, easy way that makes sense. And I think a lot of nuggets could be taken out of what you did today. So awesome. Got some good stuff out of it. I know I did. Well, so thanks, brother, and we'll see you soon. We'll talk.
Yeah,
brother.
Very fun. I appreciate it. Much love.
Okay. All right. Take care.
That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you are listening or watching. This so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. And if you've not joined the 5 Core Life Facebook group, I encourage you to join that and see what all of the fuss is about. There's some awesome content designed to get your momentum going, including a monthly giveaway to win a complimentary coaching call with the Will Moore. The Facebook group is currently the only place to get Will's dedicated attention on your 5 core journey. If you're feeling stuck or just want someone to cheer you on, then that is the place you need to be. There's nothing like a community of people on the same journey to get you fired up, kicking butt, and taking names. So come join us.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.